and you're very welcome to start your presentation. A very big welcome to you.
Thank you. Are you calling me Rasha, not Rashma? But thank you. It's okay. I was a little bit confused, and I'm looking for Rashma on the panel. مساء الخير, صباح الخير for some of you. Good morning, good afternoon, and salam alaikum for everyone. My name is Rasha Al-Jundi, and I'm a Palestinian visual storyteller based in Nairobi, Kenya. And I've been actually living in the continent for more than a decade now in different countries. So definitely Africa feels like home, or a second home for sure. I will not take 10 minutes, so giving extra time maybe for other speakers who might need the extra time. I did not prepare an actual presentation. I just wanted to share some of my thoughts when I was invited to this panel. And I just looked at the title, Women in Resistance, and basically started looking back at the last 16 plus 17 months now. And I started just jotting down some notes about the different images, whether in the last recent history or in the last decades of the Palestinian struggle. And I just wanted to share some of those with you because in my brain, these are the images that stuck with me. So as a Palestinian also embroider, I practice Palestinian tatriz. Some of the things that I also look at are the history of tatriz and the struggle. So the first image that stuck in my head is actually coming across a Palestinian traditional thobe with an UNRWA, or parts of an UNRWA ration bag sewn into it after the 1948 Nakba had started. And this was reflecting a woman basically who has been uprooted from her land suddenly and had no clothes with her. Then kind of my brain took me to Lina Khaled, and today in the morning Layla Khaled, and I watched a video this morning for Layla Khaled sitting on the edge of a table in what looks like it was 1974, and in what looks like a women's training center, and her talking about women's role in the struggle for liberation of Palestine and how women's skills have to be lifted, whether through counter illiteracy, so adult literacy programs, or building their skills to an income generating activity for them to join the struggle, the political struggle for Palestine. Then I started looking into Dalal al-Mughrabi. Dalal al-Mughrabi is a fidaiya, or a freedom fighter, who has very limited imagery in our archives. And a fellow visual artist, also Palestinian, had illustrated her image from one of the photos that she found for her. And that kind of took me then to other freedom fighters and other women who actually took up arms. So I mentioned Layla Khaled, I mentioned Dalal al-Mughrabi, but then takes me to Ahlam al-Tamimi, who carried out the Sbarro restaurants operation with a male comrade in 2001. And she basically helped in putting the explosive device, and then went outside and started reporting on the incident as a journalist. So another freedom fighter. Then that also takes me to Razan al-Najjar in the 2018 March of Return. She was sniped by a Zionist sniper in Gaza. And that then takes me to the recent history where we saw countless women stage countless acts of resistance, from Dr. Amir al-Assouli, who ran across the road from Al-Nasser Hospital to save a man from his shelter. And there was, I think, there was bullets flying from snipers, from Zionist snipers or Zionist drones. And another similar woman who ran across another road in Gaza. She was captured on an iPhone, also running across to retrieve the body of a man who turned out to be her son, also under the bullets of snipers, and she was not afraid. And that, of course, then takes me to the many images of mothers across Palestine. The mothers we all see ululating during their sons' processions, funeral processions, and the mothers who built traditional bread-making ovens in Gaza in order to fight the ongoing genocide and the ongoing starvation campaign. And finally, another image that came to me is a grandmother who was knitting winter beanies for children in the winter of last year, actually, in order to help fight the cold during the scarcity of clothing for children. So these are all visually a lot of images and a lot of proof of how much women in Palestine and the female in Palestine has resisted in all forms, whether carrying arms, taking up arms herself and joining male comrades, or resisting by other means. Visually, many Palestinian artists have actually, including females and maternal figures, especially the mother, in the art related to the Palestinian struggle, from giants like Slimane Mansour up to today's younger generation of Palestinian artists. The female figure, especially the mother or the maternal figure, in birthing freedom fighters and raising them, has been present in history and also in our history of imagery and image making. I'm gonna kind of move a little bit and I think just talk about how also in the imagery of women, and especially in the arts, we always see the woman's body, other than her face, maybe being like drawn or illustrated or photographed as rooted in the land, or as a source of life to the land, obviously for obvious reasons. But also this brings me to colonialism and how colonialism has violated women's bodies. And this violation is directly linked to the violation of the land. And this, of course, we saw a few snippets and a few testimonials of sexual violence and sexual assault against female prisoners and detainees in Zionist prisons. But this, of course, was mostly documented not only now over the last year plus, but also throughout the last decades. Colonialism seeks to grasp control over everything, and if it doesn't control something, of course, we saw that it goes mad. And controlling a society, and we see it also in different other contexts that have colonial power still functioning. Sexual violence and sexual abuse and rape are all not only weapons of war, but they're really a way to control society and to break it down. So I just want to end it here by saying that controlling and violating women is not only a war crime, but it's really colonial behavior. Palestinian women have time and time again demonstrated deep, grounded faith, steadfastness, and unfathomable strengths. This was also demonstrated by Lebanese women recently returning to their villages in South Lebanon. And we've seen it also by women just standing right across the Merkava and facing Zionist soldiers head on. This is against the rules and the reality posed by Zionist occupation. Yeah, I mean, my last maybe call for action is really to reject the coexistence narrative. There's been a rampant coexistence narrative that has actually taken a lot of traction in the last year plus during this last uptick in the genocide, especially on besieged Gaza, and now continues in other parts of Palestine. But there is a coexistence narrative that I find extremely dangerous and extremely unacceptable. Of course, I'm speaking for myself, but this has been actually flying around in activist circles, unfortunately. And I don't expect, as a Palestinian in exile, and I was born in exile because of this occupation, and after all of this blood and all of this heavy price that we've been paying on Palestinian soil, to return to a free Palestine, because we will be liberated and we will be free to be expected to coexist with my colonizer. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Let's give Rashma a very powerful first-hand appreciation. It was a very difficult theme, and I think often we don't sufficiently think through imagery that we see. And I think today you've helped to unpack just the different types and the different ways in which women are depicted, women are portrayed. So thank you very much. I think the question about what does it mean, this coexistence and the rejection of coexistence. We can come back to that. That could be one of the questions that you expand on later. I think it will be very, very powerful and useful for us to understand what exactly is meant by that. So very big thank you to you. I'm feeling quite deflated at the moment and down. You've brought me, yeah, so thank you very much. I call on the next speaker. It will also be a Palestinian sister, Diala. Please, if I've mispronounced your name, you must just help me, correct me. But you are the next speaker, so are you ready?
Yes, ready.
Good, thank you. And you will also introduce yourself. Yeah?
Sorry, Comrade Marcia. So Comrade Yala will need a translation and Sister Hadil will translate.
Okay, good. Thank you. So we'll have 2 images shown to us. Thank you, Hadil, for agreeing to do that. Good, thank you very much. You may start. Thank you.
أول شيء شكرا على هاي الاستضافة، شكرا على تسليط الضوء على قضية الأسيرات، وهي حتما يعني يعني بتسلط الضوء على القضية الفلسطينية ككل.
Thank you so much for this invitation, and thank you for focusing on the prisoners' case, especially the women prisoners' case, because this is a window to view the Palestinian cause as a whole.
كثير مرات بكون مستحية أحكي عن اللي إحنا مرينا فيه كأسيرات، بس بجنب الإيش اللي غزة بتمر فيها من إبادة، من تشريد، من جوع، وكمان إيش بمر فيه شمال الضفة الفلسطينية.
I feel humbled and really shy to talk about what we went through as women prisoners inside the Zionist prisons, comparing to what people in Gaza are facing and people living and located in the west, in the northern side of the West Bank, in Tulkarem, Nablus, and Jenin.
وكمان بإيش بمر فيه أهلنا في لبنان.
And our people and our comrades and brothers and sisters in Lebanon.
بس بمحل معين إحنا لما روحنا من السجون صار في عنا مسؤولية معينة، وإحنا صرنا سفراء أحياء من لما طلعنا من مقابر الأحياء.
But since the day of our release from the Zionist prisons, we had this mission. We had to carry this mission, and we had a message to carry and to deliver to people, especially when we got out of these graveyards and for living people inside the. Since we got out of these graveyards alive.
بفكر إنه اليوم أنا بدي أحكي عن عن تجربتي اللي مريت فيها أنا من وقت اعتقالي. بدي أعرج عليها يعني سريعا.
Okay, I'm gonna go to to some of the experience I had during my arrestment, and I want to talk in more details about what experience I have had.
أوكي. في 17/1/2024 تم اعتقالي أنا عن حاجز الكونتينر الفاصل بين شمال الضفة الغربية وجنوبها.
On January 17th, I was arrested on a checkpoint called Al Container Checkpoint. This checkpoint divides the West Bank, especially it divides the West Bank. It divides the South from the rest of the West Bank.
طبعا تم الاعتداء علي من جندية أو من حرس الحدود قبل طبعا إبلاغي إني أنا معتقلة.
I was attacked by a guard that is located on the checkpoint before I was even told that I was arrested.
بهديك اللحظات طبعا بعدين تم نقلي لمعسكرات جيش، صارت يتم التنكيل فيا ونقلي من معسكر جيش لمعسكر آخر.
Then I was transferred to معسكر جيش.
أرمي شو اسمه؟ أرمي احكي معي، خليني أشوف.
then I was transferred from one army campus to one army base to another, and
Maybe
I
military
did not
camp.
know where I was.
اوكي. فهناك كان يعني بالظروف المعسكرات الجيش كانت كتير سيئة طبعا. بتاع الجيش اللي كان موجود هناك بعرفش، هو جيش غير نظامي. يمكن شوي عم بصعب الكلمات بس.
No, it's okay. Then in these military bases, in these military bases that I was transferred to, we should note that these military bases are illegal and should not exist on these lands. And I was mistreated massively in these bases.
يعني بتذكر في واحد من المعسكرات كان هو الأسوأ بالنسبة لي معاملة. منعوني من إني أروح على الحمام رغم إنه أكثر من مرة كنت بطلب.
In one of the military bases that I was put in, they forbid me from using the bathroom. And I asked more than once to use it, and they forbid me from this simple human right.
حطوني على ركبي وكلبشوني لورا في مرابط بلاستيك لمدة 6 ساعات تقريبا.
I was forced to sit on the ground on my knees for a long time, for almost 6 hours, and my hands were handcuffed to my back with plastic rubbers.
طبعا المرابط هي كانت مشدودة على إيدي، يعني ربط كتير لدرجة إنه علاماتها لليوم موجودة على إيدي.
And I still have the marks from these handcuffs that they handcuffed me with until this day.
المعسكر هذاك كانوا كل شوي يدخلوا يسبوا على يضربوا اللي هو كان الكونتينر الحديد، يضربوه اللي كان موجود ورا راسي.
In that base, they started beating me. I was beaten. They started hitting me with metal sticks were around me, and I was surrounded with, and I was really mistreated there.
في الطريق لمعسكر الجيش، لواحد من معسكرات الجيش، كانوا شكلهم معتقلين واحد من الشباب أو يعني واحد من الأسرى، مسكوه رموه علي بدون يعني أي اعتبار لخصوصية إنه أنا بنت وهو شاب.
On our way to one of the military bases, because as Diala mentioned, she transferred through too many bases. They took her to more than one military base, and in one of the rides, they were taking her to another, from a base to another. They threw a prisoner on her without even as a sort of collective punishment for both of them. Diala and the other prisoner, and they threw the prisoners on Diala without respecting the fact that she's a woman prisoner and he's a man prisoner.
بعد بشوي فتحوا السيارة علينا. فتحوا السيارة علينا، نزلوه هو وصاروا يضربوا فيه ضرب شديد على مسمعي أنا. فكانت هاي كمان لحظة قاسية بعد سنين، يعني بعد صار سنة وشوي لهاي اللحظة أكيد ما بنساها.
A year and a half has passed since the moment where they opened the Jeep and they took the man prisoner that was with me in the Jeep, and they started beating him, and I heard the whole voices of the beating in front of me, and I still can remember this until this day. And this was part of the punishment as well.
وحتى في الطريق في السيارات هاي كانوا يضلوا مثلا يمسكوا تلفوناتي يصوروني، 4 على يد وكاميرات علي، يغنوا لي، يحكوا معي بطريقة يعني باستهزاء فيا. فكان طول الوقت إنه ما في احترام لا لإلنا ولا لخصوصياتنا، لا كأسرة أو غير أسرة. فطول الوقت إحنا مخطوفين مش أسرة.
During all these rides that they and these moves from one base to another, they took pictures of me constantly. Of Diala, of course, constantly. They filmed her constantly. They laughed at Diala. They cursed, and they hit, and they managed to keep the whole trip, a whole suffering trip, without understanding Diala's privacy or the fact that she was arrested, and the brutality that they were dealing with and inhumanity was massive.
بعدين بعد وقت طويل، يعني بعد ما يقارب 24 ساعة من اعتقالي، وصلت معتقل الشارون.
All what you have heard was only in 24 hours, the first 24 hours of her arrest. After that, she reached a prison. This is a crossing prison where they put the prisoners. It's Al Sharon. Al Sharon is, let me explain this. Al Sharon is a crossing prison where they put the prisoners before they locate them to the central prisons where they should keep them. So Diyala, after these 24 hours of hell, was put in Al Sharon.
طبعا الشران هو معروف عنه بأنه يعني السجن سيء الصيت بالنسبة للأسيرات اللي بيكرهوا يوصلوه.
I know. Al Sharon is a prison where that has a really bad and horrible reputation, and all women prisoners have this fear from being put in Al Sharon. And I also agree with Diala. Al Sharon was a horrible part of our trip to prison.
طبعا هو سجن، خلينا نوضح كمان انه هو سجن جنائي للأسرى الإسرائيليين بالعادة.
And Al Sharon prison is not for the political prisoners. It's usually a prison for the Israeli prisoners who commit crimes, regular crimes.
مم. لما وصلت هناك طبعا كانت كل الظروف هيك ببلش فيها تعدات، انت جهزي حالك شوي بدك تطلعي على غزة، بدنا نوديك على غزة، انه اشياء انه احنا وين.
In Al Sharon, they threatened Diala to send her to Gaza and start threatening her that a lot of shit are happening in Gaza, and this is where Diala will be taken next.
بعدين حطوني في زنزانة كانت طبعا بالشتاء وإحنا يعني موجودين كتير قريب على البحر، حطوني في زنزانة مفتوح شباكها، فالبرد كان يمكن أبرد ليلة في كل حياتي.
And then Diala was put in this cell. Al Sharon is close to the sea, and in the winter time, it's freezing there.
مم.
And Diala was put in this cell, and the window was widely open, and that was the coldest night of Diala's life.
طبعا خلينا نوضح لما بيكون الشباك مفتوح هو احنا ما بنشوف برا، يعني ما بتكون عندنا حتى هاي الحرية مثلا انه نشوف البحر بما انه احنا ممنوعين نشوفه. هو بيكون في قدامنا بطون وبس انه احنا بس بدخل علينا البرد.
Of course, the windows in prison are different. Even though the prison itself was located next to the sea, your window view is a concrete wall. And this concrete wall brings a more cold to the rooms. And this is the only view that we were allowed to see in these cells. And there's another thing Diala mentioned here is the fact that us as Palestinians, we are forbidden from seeing the sea and reaching the sea or entering our 48 lanes.
مم. وكمان طبعا بهداك الوقت جابوا لنا فرشة وحرام، يعني ريحتهم منظرهم كل الأشياء هاي عن جد غير قابلة للاستخدام البشري بتاتا.
The mattress and the bed cover inside this cell was unused, was not something to be used by humans because of the smell of the insects and bugs that it had on it and the horrible condition of the cell itself.
طبعا أكل ما جابوا لي رغم إنه بعد كان صار لي أكثر من 24 ساعة معتقلة. الظروف كانت سيئة، التعامل كان سيء، كل إشي كان سيء. بس أنا الحمد لله إنه ما طولتش في الهشرون، إجوا أخذوني بعد 4 ساعات ودوني على الدمون.
Adiala was put in that cell for 4 hours, and she was arrested for more than 24 hours at the moment. And in that cell, they brought no food, no water, no human needs of any type. After 4 hours, Diala was transferred to another prison.
بس بفكر كمان نحكي لهم منيح على موضوع الحمام، كيف إنه مباشر عند الشباك، يعني حتى إذا بدنا نستخدم الحمام كان أي سجان ممكن يشوفنا، كان أي حدا بدنا، يعني فيش خصوصية حتى للبنات في استخدام هذا الحمام.
Of course, in Al
يا
Sharon
لا
cell,
يا لا خليني احكي اشي. انا جانب المستوطنه بعبور بس
أكيد. فاطمة.
Sure what that was. Please continue. Please
إيه
continue.
This is فاطمة from مسافر يطا.
Thank you. Are you assisting with the Fatma? Will join us later. You are going to be the next speaker. Thank you for joining. We have one speaker on the floor at the moment. Hadil, will you please interpret for
Diala, yes, definitely. So in these cells, in Al Sharon cells, The bathroom is located right in front of the door and the window, so any prison guard would pass by the door, would see you using the bathroom, and the bathroom condition is unusable by humans.
اوكي، بعدين تم نقلي لسجن الدمون. في الدمون احنا مرينا في كتير اشياء مختلفة. مرينا طبعا في كتير قمعات هناك واحنا في سجن الدمون. طبعا ابرز القمعات كانت قمعة 25/9، 7 اكتوبر، قمعة شهر 11، كمان قمعات كتيرة.
Okay, after that, they transferred Diyala to Al Damoon. In Al Damoon, we went through a lot of brutal raids. Diyala remembers the brutal raid on the 25th of September, October 7th, the memory of October 7th, we were raided, the prison was raided, and the department was raided, and the prisoners were beaten massively. And then we had a raid in the beginning of November, in the middle of November, and at the beginning of December. These are the main raids that we faced inside Al Damoon prison. Al Damoon prison is where all the women, Palestinian women prisoners are located. All the political prisoners are located in Al Sharon, in Al Damoon, I'm sorry.
دمون. بفكر كمان مهم انه نوضح بس ايش هي القمعات اللي احنا واجهناها تبعت 25/9. تم مصادرة كل اغراضنا اللي كانت عندنا، يعني بطل عنا غير يعني مقتنيات كتير كتير خفيفة نسلك فيها يومنا، زي اواعي، كاسة، شغلات زي هيك. وفي م... اه وفي
When we
مرحلة
talk about
معينة مثلا احنا
كملي.
كنا 10 بالغرفة، صار عندنا بس معلقة واحدة تتدور بيننا احنا البنات.
Okay, when we talk about the raids here, we need to clarify a bit what are these raids inside the prisoners' room. We're talking about women prisoners inside their cells, and they would come to your room, covered up with all type of weapons. They would handcuff all the girls and start attacking the rooms, and they would start searching the rooms and taking all of our belongings, even though our belongings were only one training of clothes, a cup, a spoon, and a plate. And they would take all these, and they took all these for a specific amount of time in the Diala's cell room. 10 girls in a small room had only one spoon to eat. So they used to wait for each other in order to eat using this spoon. And this is an example of living inside the cells, inside the Zionist prisons.
مم. بفكر كمان إنه كتير كانت العقوبات اللي تنفرض علينا بسبب أو بدون، طبعا بدون سبب، هي كانت في كل المرات كتيرة. يعني يدخلوا مثلا يفتشوا الغرفة يلاقوا عنا كاسة زيادة، طبعا بمنظورهم إنها كاسة زيادة، كل الغرفة تتعاقب.
Okay. In the punishments that we used to face are, of course, were inhuman punishment, and for no reason. They used to punish the prisoners for no reason. For example, if they would come to your room for a search at mid of the night, and they would find an extra cup, and it's not really an extra cup, it's only a plastic cup inside the room, and you were given this cup by the prison administration itself. They would say that you have an extra cup, you will be punished, you will not be allowed to get out of your room, you will be taken to isolation, and a lot of punishments will be added on you.
وبفكر كمان ننوه حتى انه يعني اللبن كان يجي بكاسات بلاستيك، او الخبز كان يجي بكياس. كل هاي الاشياء انسحبت منا عشان احنا ما نقدر نستخدمهم ويصير عندنا كاسة زيادة او كيسة زيادة، او كل هاي الاشياء. كل هاي الاشياء جربوا يجردوها منا عشان انه احنا من يعني يجربوا يعاملونا معاملة غير آدمية في محل معين.
The dehumanization process, the systematic process of dehumanization inside the Zionist prisons was a systematic issue. For example, they used to bring us yogurt, and they took these yogurt cups because we were not allowed to use these yogurt cups anymore. They used to bring the bread inside the bread bags. They took the bread bags because we were not allowed to use bread bags anymore. So they used to focus on these little things that would make life really unbearable, and they would use to dehumanize us at every single step of the way.
طب عشان فيروز بس عم تحكي لي انه انجزوا، بس انا بدي احكي انه اخر اشي بالنسبة لإلي، انه من اهم الانجازات اللي انا بالنسبة لإلي بشوفها انسحبت من الحركة الأسيرة، كانت إنه إلغاء وجود ممثل أو ممثلة عن الأسرى والأسيرات، وكمان حل التنظيمات داخل السجون، بمعنى إنه صار الأسير أو الأسيرة هم مجبرين يروحوا يحكوا مع الإدارة، كمان هم مجبرين يروحوا يحكوا مع الاستخبارات. بالتالي صار بطل كتير في فرق بين القسم المدني والقسم الأمني، وهذا جزء منه هم بيحاولوا يشتغلوا على إنسانة العلاقات بين المحتل اللي هو ممثل بالسجان وبين طبعا الأسيرات اللي هم مفروض يكونوا في محل معين، نخبة الشعب الفلسطيني.
To finish with, there's an important punishment that was added on the Palestinian prisoners, especially after the genocide on Gaza and October 7th, was to dismantle all the political parties in the prisons and canceling the role of that inside the Palestinian prison, inside the Zionist prison, the Palestinian prisoners used to have one member that يعني يمثل that represent all the prisoners, and this role was cancelled. So all the prisoners, if they have a request or if they have a need, they would go directly to the prison guards. This was another try of creating a human relationship and breaking this relationship between a colonizer and a colonizee, or a person under colonization. And this is dangerous in order to, and this emphasizes what Russia was trying to say about the ability of us living in the same country with them while they're doing all this brutality to us.
I'm going to ask you to please start to round off, if you don't. Thanks.
The last sentence. بفكر كمان يا هديل إنه هذا هو بحاولوا فيه، كانوا يقضوا فيه على فكرنا قبل جسدنا، وهو هذا كتير أصعب بالنسبة لنا لما في محاولات بالقضاء على الفكر.
This is the method that they were using to destroy our Russia. Can you jump?
I think it's a way of reculturing the prisoners. It's just like if you reculture people and change their mindset, this is like a way of controlling the narrative. Again, the Zionist, the colonizer always tries to control the narrative and control what goes into your head. So it's kind of reculturing the prisoners to accept the colonizer as another human being and relate to them.
Indoctrination.
Exactly. Thank you.
Indoctrination. Good. I ask you to please round off if you don't mind.
Diala, you're done, right?
تمام أنا.
Diala is done.
Thank you very, very much, sister, and it's really appreciated. For those of us older South Africans, your description of what you went through is very, very typical of what many South Africans had to experience during apartheid as well. So thank you for sharing. And I was going to ask you just how old you were when you were arrested, but you can tell us that when we have questions later, because it's a challenging, I think you're still raw, and that you can smile at us today is wonderful. So a very big thank you to us, from us to you today. Thank you. I'm going to change track a little bit, and we'll have a South African at the moment to speak. So I'm going to call on Abida. But comrade sisters, I am asking that we try to stick to the 10 minutes. I only allowed more time in the previous speaker because of interpretation. But for now, going forward, if we can stick to our 10 minutes. Thank you. So I welcome Abida. Like the others, I'm not introducing. Please read the bios, and if you want to say something about yourself, you're very welcome. Thank you very much. Abida, are you ready? What's happened? Where is she?
I'm here, comrade. Thank you.
Okay, I can't say. Okay, good. Please go ahead. You're welcome.
Okay, I'm just going to start. I'm not sure. Good morning, comrades, and thank you for inviting me and for the organizers of this forum. So I was asked to talk about struggles, challenges, and resilience of working class women in South Africa. I want to start off by saying that, for us, International Women's Day is not a celebration, but it's indeed a day of resistance, and resistance for women like me and many, many others. It's not a single heroic moment in history, but it's a daily act of getting up and going to work, caring for our families, and holding our communities together while the world tries to tear us apart. So for us, also, resistance is about surviving under a system that doesn't value our labor, our time, and our contributions, and also hardly listens to us, especially those in power. We are completely invisible to them. But our resistance has always been loud and clear. I mean, in South Africa at the moment, women make about 51% of the population. I just want to share some statistics. At least 9.3 million Black women receive the SRD grant of only 350 Rand per month, which they must survive on and care for their families. And unemployment amongst Black working class women is at 35%, almost 36%. That is higher than the national average for unemployment in the country, which is already very, very high. And then also, we have a situation that more than 33% of women over the age of 18 has experienced some form of physical violence. Gender-based violence in South Africa is also completely high. Then if we look at our system that we have currently today in terms of what we are confronted with regards to austerity, in our communities, we are confronted with budget cuts, and then women are responsible for dealing with all these reproductive and social issues. So we are confronted with, we do not have adequate housing. People are going to bed hungry, and it's the women's responsibility, for food, for water, for electricity, to make provision for that. A lot of working class women, when they go in the morning, when they go to work, they have to confront that they might be attacked on their way to work. They will be subjected to sexual harassment by their colleagues, by their comrades in trade unions, and by their employers at work. So the triple oppression, especially of Black working class women in South Africa, it's still there. We face budget cuts. We are sitting with a ticking time bomb in our poor communities of addictions, especially drug addictions, and we are confronted with those forms of violence in our supposed safe spaces in our houses, but the state is not making provision, for example, for rehabilitation, especially of our young people, and especially of drug addiction, but also other forms of addiction. So for us, really, if we then look in terms of the struggles that we have, comrades, in Cape Town, for example, we've got a campaign against budget cuts. And even most of our struggles, we see that the majority of the marchers and the people who join the protests are women. But yet, when we look at the ones who's on the podium and we look at the ones who's in the leadership position, we always have to have the conversations to say we must make sure that we have at least some women representation. And that is still a big struggle, right? I mean, about 2 weeks ago, we had a march towards Parliament against the budget speech of the Minister of Finance. And somewhere along the march, some of the marshals came to me and they said, we can't continue this march because we are led by only men. And the male leadership find it very and then when we made the announcement to say, comrades, we need to have some women who joined in terms of leading the march. I think some of the leadership in terms of the men, they looked at me like, what are you saying? We are the leaders, so it's our rightful place to be in front. So there's a number of things here that we still have to confront. But in terms of whether it's our struggle and our reforms of resistance here in South Africa, whether it's in the DRC, whether it's in Sudan, whether it's in Palestine, whether it's with the Sahrawi people, we will always see that women is at the forefront in terms of leading raising that struggle, supporting that struggle, but we're not always getting the recognition or the support. So, I mean, I really think that when we talk about the solutions, those are the things that we need to really confront, because these are the contradictions that sit in our movements and in our progressive spaces, and even in spaces like this. I just looked very briefly in terms of who are here, and the majority of the participants, even in this webinar, are women. And we want to have our comrades and our allies, they need to be here with us, because we cannot, these are issues and contradictions that we cannot be confronting alone. We do need everybody who is in our struggles, and our struggles cannot be revolutionary if we are keep on going to leave women at the wayside, and women will just have to be the ones who are supporting, but not leading. So for example, if you're in a trade union, sometimes you are told, oh, but you speak like a man in the meetings. So if women have that characteristics of being leadership and being forthright and taking charge, it's seen as a problem and a challenge, but not if our male comrades do the same thing. So for us, the struggle is still there. The struggle still continues, and we still have a lot of work that we have to do, whether it is, I think, and I believe, even from the testimony that the comrades has made now, whether it is in Palestine or whether it is in South Africa, in terms of the very important role that women plays and need to play, and also in terms of the leadership roles. But I think, comrades, also the other thing that I wanted to say, I'm just trying to be very brief because we do have time constraints, is the issue that even within our movements, it's also sometimes our fellow feminist sisters and our women comrades who is part of that problem, and that gatekeeping and not supporting and not providing the space for women. And there are sometimes easy ways that we can do it, because a lot of the time we say, no, we can't ask Abida or whoever to speak because she can't speak well, but we hardly offer, for example, to translate, because English is the language that we use. And then a lot of the time our women comrades, for example, are intimidated that they don't want to speak because they are not speaking English well. Some of the things are small things that we can do to change that, but some of the things is also big things, and things that how do we organize? How do we build these movements? How do we build movements that makes it easy for women to participate? And I just want to say in conclusion, comrades, that, for us, the resistance will continue, and we will continue to raise our voices until our voices are heard. Thank you. Amandla.
So thank you very much, Abida. I think Abida makes a very important point about the fact that violence is also the poverty that we experience, the inequality, the unemployment, the violence of patriarchy. So, Abida, thank you for highlighting the fact. I think it's important to illustrate to sisters elsewhere, particularly in Palestine, that the struggle here, despite 30 years or 30 odd years of post-apartheid democracy, as she ended in saying, the struggle continues. So thank you very much. And I think the key thing she's highlighting is the need for us to join hands to fight patriarchy. If the Palestinian sisters were to talk on that issue, I think they'll have a lot to share that's similar to that of what Abida was just talking about. So I'm going to go to the next sister now. It's Hadil. I will also talk about her struggles. She's also another a young comrade that's gone through a lot. Her ordeal is very, I think, still quite close to her heart, and she has a lot to share. So very welcome, and please introduce yourself. It's good to see young students really steadfast in the struggle as well. So thank you. You're welcome.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for this invitation. I want to send our salute to all the women fighters around the world to begin with. I want to continue where Diala has left off, and to build on what Abida has just mentioned and was talking about. What we were facing inside the Zionist prisons, and what the Palestinian prisoners were facing, is I was also imprisoned for 7 months under administrative detention. I should have introduced myself first. So I was imprisoned for 7 months under administrative detention in the Zionist prisons, and I have faced the same the situation Diala was facing, and we lived together for long inside the Zionist prisons, and were finally free. And I was freed on the exchange deal a month and a half ago. The condition inside the Zionist prison, we have to talk about the inhumanity condition and the dehumanization process that we were facing as Palestinian prisoners. Not only the women prisoners, but also the male prisoners inside the rest of the prisons. They were using systematic policies such as starvation. Starvation was a very important policy used by the Zionist entity in order to weaken the prisoners and break their spirit and break their bodies and their physical power. The second tool they used is the strip searching, the raid at the middle of the night that we used to face as women prisoners, the invade of our privacy to break us mentally and psychologically. We also were facing a lack of human care, health care, and we didn't have access to any human needs that we need as women prisoners. So all these systematic policies used by the Zionist entities meant to break both the spirit of the prisoners and the physical ability of the prisoners. But prisons has always been places where political prisoners learn to fight more and to get stronger. And this is the fact. Even though they used all these policies, even though they used all this brutality and inhuman conditions in these slaughtery homes, we got out stronger. We had more power. And now we know that there's a huge path ahead of us. There's a huge mission in front of us in order to continue fighting for our freedom and for our right. There's one more tool that they are using, which is isolation, solitary confinement isolation. One of the women prisoners that we need to recognize today is our comrade Khalida Jarrar. Khalida Jarrar was put in solitary confinement for the last 6 months of her imprisonment. She was also freed in the exchange deal. So we know that the Palestinian prisoners are standing in the front line of resisting the Zionist occupation. And we know that the Palestinian cause is still standing there because of these prisoners. This is why we witness all these attacks on the prisoners. This is why we're seeing all these raids and inhumanity in dealing with the Palestinian prisoners, because we know these prisoners are the holder of the Palestinian case and the safety line for this cause to continue fighting until the freedom of Palestine. And in South Africa, Palestine and South Africa share a lot, especially when it comes to prison and brutality of prison. We have now more than 62 prisoners who were killed inside the Zionist prisons only in the past 16 months. So our fight continues. Our mission now is to show the world what is the real face of the Zionist occupation. Gaza and what women are facing in Gaza has proven to the whole world who is the real enemy. Gaza has exposed all these imperial powers of the world. We now can witness what the West is doing and what the US are practicing against all the Palestinian supporters in their streets, all the Palestinian cause supporters in their street. So Gaza has shown the world that we are only facing one imperial enemy. So our struggle is a joint struggle. What women in South Africa are facing is the same condition that women in Palestine are facing. We're facing the same enemy. We're facing the same machine. We're facing the same imperial machine. So our struggle is a joint struggle, and our fight is one. And in order to liberate Palestine from the river to the sea, we need to fight this joint enemy. And we need to tear down and dismantle imperialism wherever it exists. This is basically what I want to say, and I'll take more questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Again, we will come back to questions to you, and also you're another shining example of strength and resistance as a young woman to other young women across the world. So stay strong and keep fighting. And this issue of prisons being our universities, the universities where we learn to be activists, is a very, very key issue. And it certainly was very strong in South Africa as well. So I now want to move to Shyam. Shyam is a South African. I'm not going to say more. She can introduce herself. She's based in Cape Town. And you're very welcome onto the platform, Shyam. You can introduce yourself. And again, I appeal to time, and Adil was spot on. 8 minutes, wonderful. So thank you. Let's go.
Yeah. Thank you, Marsha. Thank you, everyone, for having me. I hope you can. I don't know whether or not you can actually see that.
I can certainly see. So go for it.
Okay. A quick one is that I'm Shyam Samai. I am a feminist lawyer and also a gender activist. And so my life's work has always been dedicated to women's rights, social justice, and access to justice. But that is also not why I am here, speaking in that particular context. I think it's important for me to be able to say that beyond my professional titles, I'm also from Bo-Kaap, not just which is the postcard perfect streets, but of the flats where the resistance is painted on our walls, quite literally. And so our community is home to the largest Palestinian mural in Cape Town. And my reason for speaking today is to be able to show what the ordinary women of the Cape Flats, of the Western Cape, of South Africa, of Bo-Kaap is doing in relation to the support of the Palestinian struggle. And so for more than 25 years, I've also worked with anti-apartheid, anti-gentrification, international solidarity, activism in relation to Palestine. And I also serve on the Palestinian Working Committee of the National Association of Democratic Lawyers. And so Palestine has never just been just a cause. It's been part of our very political, historical, and our spiritual identity. Which I think that is why I'm speaking on today. And so today, as we mark International Women's Day, I cannot help but think of the women and the girls in Gaza, while others celebrate the progress Palestinian women or the progress possibly in the world in relation to equality, etc. Palestinian women endure a brutal reality, one so severe that the UN Women has described it as a war on women. And I think we need to be able to just understand that. So this suffering, as we know, is not just collateral damage. It's deliberate, it's systemic, and also it's relentless. And so they are losing their children, their husbands, their homes, but most painfully, they are being stripped of their voices and their stories and their very existence. And so these realities, as Marsha has indicated, and previous speakers from South Africa, these are issues which South African women in particularly can identify with. This was part of the apartheid struggle. So Nelson Mandela's words ring loudly today. We know too well that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinians. And so this is not just a slogan for us. It was not just a rallying cry for South Africa then, nor is it merely an echo for us today. It is lived reality. It's a moral imperative and an unshakable truth. So coming from Bo-Kaap, I come from a community that knows also displacement, dispossession, and defiance. Not just pre-1994, it is continuing post-1994. So the apartheid government sought to remove us, just as Israel's apartheid regime seeks to erase Palestine. In Bo-Kaap, we have witnessed how capitalism have picked up where apartheid has left off, where gentrification has picked up, and where apartheid, like I said before, and white monopoly capital left off. So pushing people out of their homes, erasing history, and selling our heritage to the highest bidder is something that we know. This is why I would say every Friday since October 2023, but also before that, the women of Bo-Kaap have taken to the streets in protest because we see Palestine, we feel Palestine, and we have been here before. From the time of Twanguru, the enslaved scholar who shaped our spiritual identity, to Saartjie van die Kaap, who was, formerly enslaved landowner of the Owal Mosque, to Dr. Abdullah Abdurrahman of the African People's Organization, and whose daughter, the fearless Sissy Gool. Our history is one of struggle, and one of justice, and one of resistance. And so we see our struggle mirrored in the Palestinian women who refuse to be erased. And so we link with all of those international struggles, but inherently we are linked with the struggles of Palestine. So Palestinian women today, we walk in the footsteps of South Africa's great women, which is Fatima Meer, Albertina Sisulu, Winnie Mandela, Charlotte Nkeke, Lillian Goy, Rahma Moosa, who comes from also the Western Cape, come from a school which is Trafalgar. And that school was linked to people like Anwar Nagia, that has been an anti-gentrification who has since died during COVID, but has been fighting for Palestine all his life. And so by resistance is never just local Palestine, is not just isolated struggle. The same forces of imperialism and neocolonialism and capitalism and exploitation that drive the land theft in Gaza are the same forces that push people out of their homes in Bo-Kaap, in Salt River, in Woodstock, in Claremont, in Gugulethu, in Soweto, in Claremont, in all of those areas on the Cape Flats, in our townships. And so they are the same forces that displace our indigenous people. I'm also the gender commissioner, but I'm not speaking in this capacity in the Northern Cape. And we have seen what has happened to the Khoi. We have seen what happened to the San. And so across the world, and from the refugees, camps of Lebanon to the favelas of Brazil, and from the mountains of Kurdistan, and to the streets of Ferguson. And so we have defeated apartheid before, and we will again. And so standing in solidarity with Palestine has brought the wrath of the West upon us. We have seen what the United States have done. We have seen what the Allies have turned against South Africa. Yes, sorry, Mersha. Can I just quickly?
I can see you on a roll, so I don't want to break
Yes.
the roll.
Okay, 2 minutes. But we have seen them before. I know Mersha has seen them before. We've defeated them, and they failed to crush the anti-apartheid movement, and they will fail again. And South Africa's victory over apartheid was won not just by those inside the country, but by the global movement of people who refuse to be silent. And that same movement is rising for Palestine. And so let us remember the women of 1919, of 1930, 1956. And I'm going to just remind us of Bloemfontein, and in particular Wauwhoek, where Dr. Abdullah Abdurrahman reflected on this moment and said, we, and this is for the men who were supposed to be made of sterner stuff, might well understand that our faces, they must be faced in shame and ponder in some secluded spot over the heroic stand by the daughters of Africa. So we will not be silenced, we will not look away, and from the trenches of Gaza to the streets of Bo-Kaap, we stand unshaken. So we will resist and we will fight and we will continue to stand steadfast because the freedom is in our horizon, and free Palestine is there for all of us to see in our lifetime. So a luta continua, and I would say, watinta bafazi, watinta bakodo. Watinta bafazi, watinta bakodo. We strike a woman, we strike a rock. And so we should continue our solidarity, continue our work, but we need to continue our work in the trenches of where the working class, the poor, and the marginalized are, and to be able to support the women of Palestine. Thank you, Moshe. I tried.
I let
And I
you
did not do
go.
I did not do the
So
presentation.
thank you very, very much. You really, I think, was very powerful, very appreciated. And for those of you who are not South Africans, to go to the map and to look at this area that Shyam is from and that she's speaking, that gives her the fire and the passion. It's called the Bo-Kaap. And it's an area where the first free slaves of our country has lived. And it's an area that's been defended over centuries. So it's a proud, strong heritage from that area in defense of our land and in defense of our rights as Indigenous people from the Cape. So thank you very much. It's been appreciated. I'm going to call Fatma. Are you there, Fatma? You were in the meeting earlier. It would be great to have you. Are you? I'm trying to see if I see you. If you are, can you please take the platform? Feroza, is Fatma there?
Let me just give her a call.
She was on the line a few minutes ago. So comrades and sisters, in the meantime, as we wait for her, I don't know if the technical team had a small clip that they wanted to play from a group of Palestinian women. Then you perhaps can do that while we wait for Fatma, if you don't mind. I'd also like you to, the rest of you on the panel, to start making your notes, your questions, your additions, and so on. It's been a really great morning of conversation with all of our sisters weighing in on this key issue and the challenges that we confront globally in this present moment. So I don't know the technical team, if there's a clip that you're going to show. Since
It's not so much a clip. We have Comrade Rivka, who is on board. She's from Gaza. She's a genocide survivor. And Comrade Rivka, can you share with us if you
That's great.
are
So
here?
we don't see Fatma, so we will have Rivka, and then we're going to go over to open the conversation to everyone. All right, so great. Thank you. Please go.
Hello, everybody, and thank you, Comrade Feroza. Thank you, Comrade Marsha. And I also wanted to thank all the Palestinian comrades and the South African comrades who had a talk before me. It's so empowerment, and I just need to talk about the I think Hadil mentioned that it's one cause. So even for us as a Palestinian, we all suffer from the same policy, but with different strategies. So in Gaza, for example, we are they try to isolate us. In Jerusalem, they try to erase the Palestinian identity there. In the West Bank, they try to annex them and convert the West Bank people to one settlement, one Palestinian settlement, and a part of Israel. I just also want to talk about the narrative. You, Marsha, mentioned to challenge the other narratives. So I remember Audre Lorde when she said, if I didn't define myself for myself, I would be crunched into other people's fantasies and for me and eaten alive. So who am I? I am a Palestinian woman from Gaza. And I was born in Gaza, but I am a refugee inside Gaza as my grandfather, he forced to leave the village of Zarnuqa, and it's close to Ar-Ramle city, which is Israel now. And this has happened on the 27th of May, 1948, after an attack by Givati unit. And so that whole my life I was in Gaza. I was born in Gaza. I became a mother of two girls in Gaza, and I survived 4 wars. The 5th was the ongoing genocide. And I'm saying ongoing because there is no ceasefire. There is no ceasefire now. People are starving. They don't allow them to enter tents and aids and mobile houses. So it's ongoing genocide. I don't know if I have time to go through into my experience, and maybe also emotionally, I will not be able to talk about details. But what I want to talk about is when we moved from Gaza, we traveled with the South African Embassy 2 months after the genocide. Because my husband has a South African passport, and I always say this is why we are not dead now. And we lost everything. We lost our house. We lost our life there, and we forced to leave. So South Africa is our 4th displacement, and we are trying to start from scratch here in South Africa. And with trauma. And I know that this trauma is a drop in the ocean of what people suffer now in Gaza. Sometimes if I want to mention the word trauma in front of my sister, and she's in Gaza now, and she gave birth during the genocide, it will be, so it's luxury to use this term, and I'm sure you understand. So I also suffer from this survivor's complex, and it's very heavy. But let's focus on the networking, especially as women now, and let's focus on solidarity. So Comrade Samia mentioned Nelson Mandela said, and I also want to add Angela Davis said, when she said no one of us will be free until we all be free. And this is a chance to unite all the efforts and to put pressures on the South Africa, the global South, that to complete the role of liberation us from the I'm not talking liberation Palestinian, I'm talking about as we are one body. I know global South is borderless. So what is the role of the global South towards Trump's plan about ethnic cleansing Gaza now and make it Riviera, as if the people there don't have history and don't have dignity. Thank you, South Africa, because they take Israel to ICJ, but still South Africa didn't cut completely the relations with Israel. I'm talking also this because I am also a BDS activist, so it's so important. For example, South Africa is the second country in the world export coals to Israel after Colombia. Now, after the genocide, Colombia stopped doing this. Colombia stopped exporting coal to Israel. Now we are waiting for South Africa to take this step, and this is the meaning of solidarity. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and thank you for calling us out. I think it's important that we do this, and welcome to South Africa and into the movement here. I'm rushing now, so lastly, I call on Fatma, and she'll be the last speaker. I hope there are no more, because otherwise there'll be no time for comments and questions. So Fatma, welcome to the meeting, and a big thanks to you, Rivka. It was really good to hear you, and we should embrace you as South Africans and make you feel very much part of us. So I hand over to Fatma. Where are you?
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, thank you. You having me with you today here to talk about the situation here in South Hebron Hills, in Susia Village and Masafar Yattash. I am, as you know, I am Fatma. I am head the Rural Women Association. I am social worker. I'm activities woman from 2000 in my community to support women and human rights. I'm grew up in Susia. I sent introduce about myself. I didn't talk more. I tried to summarize. I was life in Susia. It was amazing life. A very beginner, very simple, but it's beautiful. But with the occupation and settler, they do our life hard and hard every time. They are violence more when the war from 7 October start. It's was very difficult when they coming to the people, to the family, to my family. They attack us, violence, children. They are scared. Women, some children, they have trauma from them. The situation really, it became more hard from 7 October when the government gave the settler free to do what they want in our community with Palestinian people in Area C. They can come, they can middle night, they coming to attack family when they in the field. The women in my community, when they go to the field, they are, as you know, we are farm Palestinian people, and we have sheep. It's difficult when we go to the field, the settler coming and attack, and they cutting our tree, destroy our farm. Sometimes they arrested the young people, maybe some women, they arrested their children. They take almost the land from 7 October today. Already they expelled us from the village, and we coming to the farmland in 1986. And then from that time till today, from place to place, they follow us, demolition, attack, everything they do to they bother us and let us to be life with difficult to expel us again and again. For example, when we are facing really, I don't know how to say in English, but we are facing really biggest violence in the world, I think, when the settler coming to the people, no specialty in life. They send a drone camera. If I sit with my children and woman outside, they look what we are do. They check in our life, everything they are control. Sometimes they're coming to check our home and they damage everything and let us, the weather is very cold in winter time. They let us to go outside. I have my father, it's old man, my mother, old woman. Other people, same thing. Children in under rain, 2 hours, 3 hours, 1 hour, it depends how long they will stay. But always they are do that. For example, when I am social work working, I am removed to my community from Twani village to Sosia village. When I am back, the settler stand beside the road. 5 guys, they hidden their face, and they shooting me by rockets and stone. Alhamdulillah, thank to God, I am safe, but it was very scary and dangerous. Maybe they will charge me or kill me, but the chance the rocket and stone coming up the car, not in the glass, in the window. Also, I am full fast drive to hurry quickly from them. The situation everywhere, they are also close the road. Sometimes they put in the wheel water materials for sheep and the family. It will be died them. They damage the electricity system, cutting the system from place to place between the homes, forbidden us to use any water from the road beside us. They send this water to settlement. The expenses water for them 5 shekel, but we buy the water 35 shekel. They forbidden us to use any services in the area, and they are try to cut everything, give us life in our community. The children, when they go to school, the women always, they are, I'm sorry, I didn't say Happy Mother's Day yesterday. I'm start direct. The children, when they go to school, we are always look to the road and they check how they are go. The settler cutting them way. The settler sometimes follow them, violence them, attack. They are dangerous. Sometimes they have gun. We are scared. Maybe they will shooting them. Every time we are life under worry. When we woke up morning early, maybe 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, we will see bulldozer coming to demolition our home or our neighbor home. Everything in our life is not easy, is very dangerous. The students, some women, they lost education because they are scared to go to continue education in Yatta town university, because we are Muslim and Arab community. We are scared about the woman. The settler will attack them or do something bad with her if she go to the school. Every part in our community is not easy, difficult, but we are smooth and still here to continue stay in our land. Really, we are lost more land. You put them hand on more land in this time, war time. Actually, they take more land before, and so not is the time the land is not enough for the sheep or farm we have still until now. This situation.
Fatma, if you can
Yes.
start rounding off, please. 2 more minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. What you say?
2 more minutes. 2 more minutes.
Okay, okay. The situation is difficult. If I want to talk about every part in our life, not easy. I I cannot finish because we have daily, every day we have action, violence from settler and occupation. They are coming to save settler when they violence the people. But this is life, and we'll give you update on the group always what's the action here and happen in our community. I will send you maybe more details if you love about the woman special. I will send you the link of the Rural Women Association to look for. Also, we are sharing a link for fund if you help us to share with your friend. Thank you very much. This is for basket food for family and people here. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Fatma. I am part of a movement called the Rural Women's Assembly. So we have a lot in common, and the women struggle around land in Southern Africa and land and food and water. So I'm sure we have a lot to discuss and a lot to share. So thank you for your courage. Thank you for your resilience. It's really powerful how you that you are still able to share with us and continue to build. So sisters and brothers, comrades on this webinar, I'd like us to give everyone a very big hand, all the speakers, for sharing and for giving us a small insight into the daily struggles that they face and the unfolding situation. As one of the comrades had said earlier, there is no ceasefire, there is no, the situation continues. So I want to open the floor for comments, questions, and leave a few minutes at the end for us to also be at what we can do as the way forward. Yeah, so let's see how we open up, please. Can I see hands and questions, comments? Please don't be shy and just indicate if you
There
want.
are some hands, Comrade Marsha.
I see. Thank you. I'm trying to see if there's more than one hand. Mzi, welcome, and it's nice to see that you're in the meeting. There's Joe. There are 3 hands. So I start with the first 3 hands. Mzi, Rasha, and Joe. Let's go. Thank you. So, comrades, if you keep your comments a bit brief, then we can have a few more. So, can we start?
Thanks, Comrade Marsha, and good afternoon to everyone, and a big hand to all the women who have shared their stories. Mine is just a comment, it's not a question. I just want to salute and give a message of unending solidarity to all the Palestinian women and all the women in resistance across. The work that they are doing, it is always not recognized in as much as we are not wanted in this role that we are playing, but it is very rare that we are recognized as women who are in resistance. I also want to say something around the story that was shared by Comrade Diala and Rivka. Their stories, the experiences that they have to go through, you can still hear that they are still carrying that trauma in their day-to-day lives. We salute you, comrades. Continue to carry on. Never ever give up, or never ever listen to anyone who will tell you otherwise. Even here in Gqeberha, just a day ago, we lost an activist, Comrade Pamela Mbini, who was a whistleblower on Omotoso's rape and trafficking, meaning this violence, I will call it a violence, of always wanting to erase women who are in the forefront. It is there, it will forever be there, but one thing, we will never, ever, ever, not in any day, surrender. We are going to continue. Thank you, Comrade Mesha.
Thank you. And those of you who know the sister who's just spoken, like I do, she's not going to give up. So keep on fighting. Also fight austerity. Good. I go to the next speaker. I was wondering, Russia, if I can just have Joe, because then you can respond to both the South Africans. Is that okay?
Sure. Yes.
Good. Joe, please go for it. And there are lots of comments in the chat. Please look at them as well. Joe, are you ready? Where is she? I saw her hand earlier. Now I don't see her any longer. Otherwise, I go to you. Russia, please go ahead. I cannot find Joe in the group.
Sure. Maybe she dropped.
Yeah.
Okay. I actually had a comment after listening to all the speakers, and thank you everybody who shared. This was very insightful, very strong, and full of a lot of interesting and cross-cutting facts that bring us all together. I'm going to share a comment that would probably not go down very well. But I'm used to people not liking what I say, so it's fine. But so I want us, I feel like, as I've been listening to this, the narrative of apartheid in Palestine for the last, 15 years. Then it's kind of took a lot of traction. And I think the problem with that narrative is that it kind of negated the settler colonial nature of the occupation of Palestine. And it became a tool itself for liberal Zionists and a lot of organizations that pose as pro-Palestinian organizations, mainly many Jewish organizations, to use that apartheid narrative to kind of promote the coexistence narrative that I mentioned in my intro. So the problem with the apartheid narrative is that, and I've heard this happen in a lot of events and events that I've attended, whether online or in person, being misused, and being promoted as we just have to dismantle apartheid in Palestine and then everything will be fine. And this would only entail removing some of the illegal, between quotes, settlements, meaning there are some legal settlers and there's none in Palestine as far as I know. And we just have to remove this wall and then everybody will be living happily ever after. And that is the problem of the apartheid narrative, dear comrades, everybody who's listening to this event. Apartheid is part of the occupation. It is basically a set of tools that the Zionist occupation or the Zionist entity is using, indeed. And that's why many South Africans relate to the occupation of Palestine and kind of see similarities and start drawing similarities, that is absolutely fine. However, the starting point of the struggle of Palestinians that is more than 100 years old is not apartheid. It is settler colonialism. These are white settlers that came from different parts of Europe and colonized Palestine. Period. Now, the argument that there's some African settlers and then some Arab settlers, that's also true. They can all also, as far as I'm concerned, go back to where they came from. That is the point. If we start always with the words of apartheid, and this is an apartheid system, it will negate the existence of more than 70% of the land. And it will always recognize that the so-called Israel, between parentheses, this Zionist entity that should not exist and has no legitimacy on our land, from the river to the sea and beyond, does not have any legitimacy, that it has to exist and that it will continue to exist beyond. Meaning the settlers will just be called Palestinians and they will still own 3/4 of the land. So is the case in Kenya, so is the case in South Africa, as far as I know. So I rested here, but I think that we should really, really recounter and recalibrate our narrative, because if we're seeking full and total liberation and not fall into the gentrification, everything that was then discussed, the basically post-colonial legacy, then we will fall into the same trap. And we have a lot of examples that we shouldn't follow. Thank you.
I think this should be a debate that we should have with you, because the South Africans who coined the phrase apartheid Israel, and I'm one of them, wasn't simply talking about the superficial vestiges of what apartheid meant. We had a different term. We spoke about apartheid capitalism. Today, very little in South Africa has changed. So we share the narrative that you're talking about. We are very clear about what has happened in South Africa, and I think it would be useful for us to debate. I'm going to ask that we have this as a dialogue, because I think a large part of what you're saying is true, but it's those who started the narrative had a deeper, better, more deep structural meaning. And what you're saying is correct, because what we have in South Africa is very little change, superficial changes. And that's the issue. So we share more than you think if you speak to the movements who coined this idea. So I'm going to ask BDS, I'm going to ask Feroza, I'm going to ask, she's just left me off track. But I think we should debate this with you, because we have a much stronger, deeper meaning and comparison to what's happened in our own country, and what is still unfolding. And there's a lot of similarities with your own analysis. I want to hand over to Abida. Her hand was up.
Thanks, Comrade Marsha. Now, I just wanted to comment also on what Comrade Rasha said, and I agree with some of the comments that you shared, but I think what is also important for us as South Africans is that my sense is that also that probably the Palestinians are learning from our experiences and what should have been done differently. But I think what is equally important for us in terms of the liberation and the resistance is also that it's always been our position that the Palestinian oppressed people, the Palestinian colonized people decide and they lead us in terms of what their position is and how they resist and how they will respond to the occupation, to colonization. But what I wanted to say further is that the commonalities there, especially in terms of women in resistance. Most of the comrades, when they made their presentations, we were talking about the imperialism, colonialism, and capitalism. And even for us in South Africa, especially Black working class women, those are still the struggles that we are confronted with. So for me, I think what is also important is to say, how do we move forward in terms of whether it's our struggle in Palestine, where the sisters and the comrades and the people in Palestine are fighting for their liberation, and our struggles that we have here, whether it is in South Africa or in the DRC or wherever, how do we build that movement of solidarity and of international solidarity. And there are different ways, and of course with BDS in terms of their campaigns. But I think what is particularly important for us in South Africa is also to link that struggle to our local struggles in terms of the struggles that our comrades have in Palestine and in other countries where they are experiencing conflict and genocide, because some of the commonalities is the operators are their place, and it's imperialism and the role of the West. And for example, now the Trump administration and what it means, not just for the people in Palestine, but also for the people in South Africa and the continent of Africa. Thanks, comrades.
Joe, I see your hand. Do you want to speak? I think there's some very good suggestions made by Feroza that we should have a dialogue on normalization, colonization, and perhaps a real debate on what we meant and what has been, how our narrative has been watered down. So let's hear you, Joe. Do you want to speak? Otherwise, we take another hand, comrades.
Yeah, thank you, Comrade Chair. Can you hear me? Sorry, my reception went away. First of all, thank you, comrades. This is really quite something to be around so many amazing women in resistance that have been fighting for so long. And from South Africa, from Palestine, I'm very grateful. I think I have a question and then a small, perhaps, contribution on this apartheid question. In terms of the question, I think, you know, we're thinking more and more in our activism in South Africa around, you know, how do we escalate? How do we, you know, there's this moment which kind of links to my point about the apartheid question where, you know, the ICJ case, there's this, but as was rightly pointed out, we're still one of the biggest coal traders with the Zionist entity. So just to get a sense from our Palestinian comrades, like what kind of escalated internationalist solidarity do you think we should be thinking of in our organizing here in South Africa? That's the question. And then just on the apartheid point, one of the things that occurs to me, so I work on international law a lot, and one of the things that occurs to me is that there's so much emphasis on you know, on the criminalization aspect, on the illegality aspect, when in fact the entire architecture is illegal and unlawful, and the very definition of apartheid in like legal text is so far removed from what it was in the 70s. It doesn't even have a concept of white supremacy. It doesn't even have a concept of racial capitalism. It doesn't have a concept of settler colonialism, of extermination. And I think it's been kind of co-opted into legal discourse in a way that is alien both to the South African Black working class context, as I understand it, and to the Palestinian context. And I think I'd be interested in this, in seeing how that's traveled through the legal archive as well. Thank you.
So I think South Africans will agree with Joe, and our lived reality at the moment is one that we do not think Palestinians must, just the ongoing apartheid in this country. It's unbelievable. The daily structural apartheid, it's quite, yeah. Let me see more hands. There were more hands.
Marsha, if you just allow me here, I don't think that we're saying different things. I think what my point was that it has been whitewashed and has been hijacked. And I think then, and I've been to South Africa, I think 4 or 5 times now, and not only one part of South Africa. And I agree, it's totally shocking. Like if people are blind, they don't see it. Only blind people don't see like there's a lot of issues that are so stark in your face. And obviously talking to people, you then understand, unpack it a bit more. But I think it has been just whitewashed and hijacked and just totally, just totally, as Joe said, like just became this term to just mean, oh, if we just do, as I said, I know a few things, it's going to be fine. And as if the settler in Haifa or in Yafa or in Akka is fine, but only the settler in Al Khalil or in East Jerusalem, not West Jerusalem, is the illegal settler, and everybody else is fine. So this was my point.
No, and I'm not disagreeing. All I'm saying is that there were many debates, and if you've been here, you'll know how deep and how fractured these debates were, and it would be useful to pick them up. And it's still what divides the left often. Anyway, so comrades, let's open or close the meeting. Any last comments? I do think I want to check in with asking Firoza if she wants to make a closing remark. She played a very big role in pulling all of this together, she and the team. So let me not isolate her. There's a whole team behind this, the preparation. So I'm going to give them the last word. We have few more minutes, and maybe they want to say all the thanks. And the proposal is that we do take forward. We have another webinar where this issue is discussed, and where we really begin to unpack what was meant and how and why it suits some to have the whitewashing, as you call it. Good. Firoza?
Thank you so much, Comrade Marcia. Firstly, thank you so much for being such an awesome facilitator, and your experiences and your work as an activist comes through. So thank you so much. To all the panelists, thank you. I think we're all feeling, I think we all felt very hurt. We felt our hearts have been sore listening to all of you, but you have inspired us. I think your courage has just been is amazing. So thank you for all of that. I've taken down notes, and I think Comrade Amara and Comrade Rina have also taken down notes. And let us have continuous dialogue, and we will start planning this. But I don't want us to plan it as only South Africans. It will be good to plan it together with all the comrades on this panel, not in this room. So everybody here, I see Comrade Firdaus, Comrade Miriam, lots of other comrades. Let's all, Comrade Maria from Kanya College, let's all come together. Let's look at a plan of how we can have this dialogue. We also wanted to today desperately bring on comrades from the DRC, who we all know, the women there have been the target of a lot of violence. So we need to connect all of these dots, but we need a proper plan, and let's see how we can deepen the solidarity, deepen the work that we are currently doing, so that there are concrete results, and it's not only a talk shop. So with that, I would leave you, and perhaps there's other comrades here that have worked with me on this to make a few lasting points as well. But just thank you, Amandla. Power to the people.
Thanks very much, sisters. I check in with Rina. I check in with all the backgrounders. So I give you a last minute. Do you want to say something, please? You're very welcome. Rina, is Roshan online?
So thank you to Comrade Firoza for initiating this, and it was a very, very inspiring talk, and we really appreciate your sharing your experiences with us with such it's heavy heart and pain, and inspires us to continue our struggle towards a free Palestine.
Thank you. I ask our young sister, Amara, do you want to have the last word and then I want to start to close.
Thank you. I think I did put this in the chat, but maybe not everyone's read it. I just wanted to thank everyone for sharing their really painful and personal stories. I think the point of groups like this is for us to share that load so that you're not carrying all of this burden by yourself. And inshallah, we'll see a free Palestine in our lifetimes. We're very glad to have you with us now, and we hope that you can somehow try and survive the relentless bombardment of the occupation so that we can actually work together to see it fall.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all the comrades that attended this meeting. It was a powerful group that were present. To the sisters from Palestine, to all of you, the speakers. I think the sharing was very powerful, very courageous, and in some ways, to all of us, I think it continues to inspire us to continue to struggle and to reclaim the narratives of what International Women's Day actually was and what our struggles were all about. So, to all of you, thank you very much.
And thank you to Mercia for wonderful chairing and all the speakers, and looking forward to the next time we can connect.
So we will take you up. I'm pleased you're on this call too. We're going to take up the question of how we understood this narrative of when we introduced the term apartheid. So I'm looking forward to that conversation. Thank you very much. Take care. Thank you. And thanks for challenging us, Rasha. It's good. I like it. Thank you very much. Take care, everyone.
Thank you and
comrade.
bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.